The evaluation chamber of the northern citadel reeked of fear and desperation. Kestrel tried not to breathe too deeply as she stood in line with 24 other unmated Omegas, all waiting for their fate to be decided by the Alpha King's council. "Next!" barked Commander Thorn, his scarred face showing no emotion as another Omega was dragged away, rejected. "Too weak," had been the verdict. Just like the 5 before. Kestrel's stomach churned. At 23, she was already considered too old for a first evaluation. Most Omegas were claimed by 18, mated by 20. But she'd hidden in the border villages, avoiding the mandatory presentations until the king's soldiers had finally found her last week. The copper-haired one. Step forward. Kestrel's legs moved without her permission. The evaluation platform loomed before her, its black stone surface still wet with the tears of the last rejected Omega. She climbed the steps on trembling legs, hyper-aware of every eye upon her. "Name," Commander Thorn demanded. "Kestrel of Ironhold," she whispered. "Speak up, Omega." "Kestrel of Ironhold," she repeated, louder this time, though her voice still shook. Thorn circled her slowly, his assessment clinical and cold. Underfed. Minimal muscle tone. No noble bloodline markers. He grabbed her chin roughly, forcing her to bare her neck. "Scent glands are barely developed. This one wouldn't survive a standard claiming, much less a royal one." Murmurs rippled through the watching crowd. Kestrel's cheeks burned with humiliation, but she kept her chin raised. She'd known this would happen. She'd always been different. Her Omega traits weak, her scent barely noticeable. It's why she'd hidden for so long. "Classification," Thorn called to the royal scribe. "Defective, unsuitable for breeding, recommended for servant allocation or—" The massive doors at the end of the chamber suddenly burst open with such force that they cracked against the stone walls. Every head turned, and the air itself seemed to grow heavy with power. Alpha King Lysander Valdris entered like a storm given flesh. Kestrel had heard stories about the Alpha King, but nothing had prepared her for the reality. He towered over everyone, his presence so overwhelming that several Omegas in line whimpered and bared their necks instinctively. His dark hair was longer than fashion dictated, wild around a face that was both brutally handsome and terrifying. But it was his eyes that made Kestrel's blood freeze, silver like winter moonlight, ancient and predatory. "Your Majesty." Thorn immediately dropped to one knee. "We weren't expecting—" "Continue," Lysander commanded, his voice like distant thunder. He moved into the chamber, and Kestrel noticed how even his own guard stayed several feet back. "Don't let my presence interrupt your sorting." His gaze swept over the line of Omegas, dismissive, bored, until it landed on Kestrel. She watched his nostrils flare slightly, his massive frame going unnaturally still. For 3 heartbeats, the Alpha King stared at her with an expression she couldn't read. "This one's defective, Your Majesty," Thorn supplied helpfully. "We were just about to—" "Defective," Lysander repeated, moving toward the platform with fluid grace. "Is that your professional assessment, Commander?" "Yes, sire. She's too weak to survive even a standard claiming. Her scent is barely—" "I can assess for myself." The Alpha King climbed the platform steps, and Kestrel fought every instinct screaming at her to run. Up close, he was even more overwhelming. The power radiating from him made her knees weak, her Omega instincts confused, torn between submitting and fleeing. He circled her once, slowly, like a wolf studying prey. When he stopped directly behind her, she could feel the heat of him, smell something wild and dangerous that made her pulse race. "Look at me." Kestrel turned, forcing herself to meet those terrifying silver eyes. The moment their gazes locked, something electric shot through her, sharp and disorienting. She saw his pupils dilate, saw something flicker across his face. Surprise? Recognition? "You're too weak to survive," he said, loud enough for the entire chamber to hear. His voice was flat, emotionless. Commander Thorne's assessment is correct. This Omega is wholly unsuitable. Kestrel's chest tightened. Even though she'd expected rejection, hearing it from him, which is why I'll be taking her myself. The chamber erupted. Gasps, shocked whispers. Even Thorne stumbled backward in surprise. Your Majesty, Thorne stuttered. Surely you don't mean. This Omega cannot possibly meet royal standards. Are you questioning my judgment, Commander? The air grew heavier. Thorne fell to both knees. Never, Your Majesty. I only meant. Prepare her for transport to the royal wing. Lysander turned back to Kestrel. Tonight, she shares the king's bed. The royal wing was a world apart from anything Kestrel had ever known. Black marble veined with gold, ceilings that soared impossibly high, and windows that overlooked the entire northern territory. She stood in the center of the king's private chambers, still wearing the rough peasant dress she'd been captured in, feeling impossibly small. You're trembling. Lysander's voice came from the shadows near the fireplace. He'd been so still she'd forgotten he was there. I'm cold, she lied. No, you're not. He moved into the light, having shed his formal court attire for simple black pants and a loose white shirt. Somehow, he looked even more dangerous this way. Less king, more predator. You're terrified. You think I'm going to hurt you. Aren't you? The words escaped before Kestrel could stop them. Something that might have been amusement flickered across his harsh features. Honest, that's unexpected. He moved to a cabinet, pouring amber liquid into 2 glasses. Drink this. I don't. It's not a request. Kestrel took the glass with shaking hands. The liquid burned going down, but it did help steady her nerves slightly. Lysander watched her over the rim of his own glass, those eyes unreadable. Do you know why I brought you here? He asked. To humiliate me further? To make an example of the defective Omega who dared appear before the king? If I wanted to humiliate you, I would have left you on that platform. He set down his glass, moving closer. Tell me, how long have you been hiding what you are? Kestrel's blood went cold. I don't understand. Don't lie to me. He was directly in front of her now, so close she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. Your scent is wrong, muted. But underneath. He leaned down, inhaling near her neck without quite touching. Underneath is something else entirely. Something that shouldn't exist. Please, Kestrel whispered, though she wasn't sure what she was begging for. You're not defective, Lysander continued, straightening. You're suppressed. Someone taught you to hide your true nature. Who? No one. His hand shot out, gripping her chin, not painfully, but firmly enough that she couldn't look away. I said don't lie to me. I can smell deception. Tears burned Kestrel's eyes. My grandmother. She said I had to hide it or they'd kill me. Hide what? I don't know. The words burst out of her. She never explained. She just taught me herbs to take, meditations to practice, ways to dim myself. She said if anyone knew what I really was. She broke off, a sob catching in her throat. Lysander released her chin but didn't step back. Your grandmother was wise. You would have been killed. Just not for the reason she thought. What do you mean? Instead of answering, he moved to the massive bed that dominated one wall of the chamber. You'll sleep here tonight. Kestrel stared at him. In your bed? That is generally what shares the king's bed means. Yes. But you said I was too weak. I said what needed to be said for the audience listening. He pulled his shirt over his head in one fluid motion, and Kestrel quickly averted her eyes from the expanse of scarred muscle. Something is hunting Omegas with unusual traits. 3 have been found dead in the past month. By declaring you defective and taking you myself, I've made you untouchable. You're protecting me? I'm investigating. He climbed into the bed, seemingly unconcerned with her presence. And you're going to help me understand what makes you different enough that someone wants you dead. But I don't know. You will. His eyes flashed in the firelight. Your suppressants are already wearing off. I can smell it. By tomorrow, maybe the day after, your true nature will reveal itself. And then, we'll both have answers. Kestrel remained frozen in place. Where do I sleep? I told you. Here. But we're not. I can't. The bed is large enough for 3 people. Stay on your side and we won't have a problem. When she still didn't move, his voice dropped to a growl. Unless you'd prefer I chain you to the floor? I'm told some Omegas enjoy that. Kestrel scrambled onto the far edge of the bed, still in her dress, pulling the covers up to her chin. The mattress was sinfully soft, the sheets finer than anything she'd ever touched. But all she could focus on was the presence of the Alpha King an arm's length away. What happens when my true nature reveals itself? She whispered into the darkness. For a long moment, he didn't answer. Then, that depends entirely on what you are. And if I'm something bad? Then you'll wish you really were just defective. Despite the threat in his words, exhaustion pulled at Kestrel. The day's terror, the stress of years of hiding, all of it crashed over her at once. Her eyelids grew heavy. She was nearly asleep when she felt it, a sharp, burning sensation in her chest, like something inside her was trying to claw its way out. She gasped, curling in on herself. It's starting, Lysander said quietly. Don't fight it. But the pain was growing, spreading through her veins like liquid fire. Kestrel bit her lip to keep from screaming, tasting blood. Then, as suddenly as it had come, the pain vanished. But something was different. The room seemed brighter, every sound sharper. And Lysander's scent. God's. His scent was everywhere, intoxicating and overwhelming and... Interesting, he murmured, and she realized he was watching her, those eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. Very interesting indeed. What's happening to me? Your wolf is waking up. He rolled onto his side, studying her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. The question is, what kind of wolf are you? The implications of his words were impossible. Omegas didn't have wolves. Only alphas could shift. It was the fundamental law of their species. That's not possible, she whispered. No, he agreed, reaching out to brush a strand of copper hair from her face. The touch sent electricity through her entire body. It's not. Which is exactly why someone wants you dead. Kestrel woke to sunlight streaming through massive windows and an empty bed. The space where Lysander had slept still held his warmth, his scent, pine forests and winter storms, making her head spin. She sat up carefully, every nerve hypersensitive. You're awake, she yelped, spinning to find him standing by the windows, fully dressed in black leather and armor. How had she not heard him? Your senses are adjusting, he said, answering her unspoken question. You'll be disoriented for a few days. I feel like I'm burning from the inside. That's normal. He moved toward her with predatory grace. The servants left clothes. Bathe and dress. We have work to do. Work? Another Omega was found dead this morning. Same marks as the others. His expression darkened. Someone in my court is hunting your kind, and I intend to find them. Kestrel slid from the bed, immediately aware of how his eyes tracked her movement. My kind? You mean defective Omegas? I mean whatever you're becoming. He gestured to an adjoining door. The bathing chamber is through there. Don't take long. The bathroom was absurdly luxurious, a sunken pool filled with steaming water, bottles of oils and soaps that probably cost more than her family's farm. Kestrel sank into the water, gasping as it hit her oversensitive skin. She'd just begun to relax when she heard voices in the main chamber. Lysander's deep rumble and someone else. Female, melodious. "Cannot believe you brought that creature here," the woman was saying. "The council is in uproar." "The council can hang themselves," Lysander replied coldly. "She's defective, Lysander. Broken. She weakens your position." "Careful, Seraphina. You're speaking about someone under my protection." Kestrel crept closer to the door, water dripping from her hair. So this was Seraphina. She'd heard the name whispered by servants, always with a mix of fear and awe. "Your protection?" Seraphina laughed, but it was sharp, bitter. "Is that what we're calling it? Everyone knows you took her to your bed. What I do in my bed is no concern of yours." "It used to be." Silence. Kestrel held her breath. "That was a long time ago," Lysander said finally. "Before you chose to betray." "I chose survival. Just like you." Footsteps moved closer to the bathing chamber door. "Does your new pet know what you really are? What you become under the full moon? Leave. Now. She'll find out eventually. And when she does, when she sees the monster you truly are." A snarl ripped through the air, inhuman and terrifying. Kestrel stumbled backward, slipping on the wet stone. She crashed into the water with a splash that seemed impossibly loud. The door burst open. Lysander stood there, his eyes no longer silver but burning gold, canines extended into fangs. Behind him, a beautiful woman with raven hair smirked. "Ah, there's the defective Omega now." Seraphina's green eyes glittered with malice. "How fascinating. Tell me, Mouse, has he knotted you yet? Or is he saving that particular horror for—" "Get out." Lysander's voice was more growl than words. Seraphina laughed, backing toward the main door. "Remember what I said, Omega. Monsters always reveal themselves eventually." The door slammed behind her with enough force to shake the walls. Kestrel stood frozen in the bath, acutely aware of her nakedness, of the way Lysander's golden eyes tracked the water droplets running down her skin. His chest heaved as he visibly fought for control, fangs slowly retracting. You're like me," she whispered. "You have a wolf. Every alpha has a wolf." His voice was rough, strained. "But your eyes are none of your concern." He turned sharply away. "Get dressed. We're leaving." "Where are we going?" "To examine the body. You're going to tell me what you sense." "I don't understand." He spun back, moving so fast she didn't see him until he was at the pool's edge, leaning down. "Your wolf recognizes things others can't. Sense. Energies. Lies. That's why they're hunting Omegas like you. You're a threat to their secrets." "Who's they?" "That's what we're going to find out." He straightened, but not before his gaze dropped to where the water barely covered her breasts. Something dark and hungry flashed across his face. 5 minutes, or I come back in and dress you myself." He stalked out, leaving Kestrel trembling, but not from cold. Her skin felt too tight, her blood too hot, and between her thighs, a shameful ache had begun to build. She dressed quickly in the provided clothes, soft leather pants and a tunic that probably cost more than her village made in a year. When she emerged, Lysander was waiting, his control firmly back in place. "Can you fight?" he asked. "No." "Can you run?" "From what?" His smile was all sharp edges. "From me, if necessary." Before she could respond, he gripped her wrist, and the world exploded into sensation. Every point of contact burned with electricity. She gasped, and his nostrils flared, scenting her arousal. Interesting, he murmured, thumb brushing over her racing pulse. Your wolf recognizes mine. I don't. You will. He released her, stepping back. When your heat comes, and it will come, probably within days, you'll understand exactly what you are, what we are together. My heat? But I've never. Because you've been suppressed. But now? His eyes flickered gold again. Now your true nature is awakening, and when it fully emerges, you'll either be the most powerful weapon in my arsenal, or the thing that destroys us both. The morgue beneath the northern citadel reeked of death and medicinal herbs. Kestrel covered her nose, but with her heightened senses the smell penetrated everything. 3 bodies lay on stone slabs, all young Omegas, all with their throats torn out. Tell me what you sense, Lysander commanded, standing back to observe. Kestrel approached the nearest body reluctantly. The Omega had been pretty once, blonde hair, delicate features. Now her skin was gray, black veins spider-webbing from the wound. There's something wrong with the marks, Kestrel said slowly. They look like wolf attacks, but... She leaned closer, fighting nausea. The spacing is wrong, and there's a scent. She inhaled carefully. Bitter. Chemical. Like ... quote. Poison, Lysander finished. Keep going. Kestrel moved between the bodies, her wolf stirring restlessly beneath her skin. At the 3rd corpse, she froze. I know her. Kara. She worked in the border villages. Her voice caught. She was like me. Hiding. All 3 were, Lysander said quietly. Omegas with dormant wolf traits. Someone is specifically targeting them. But why? Before he could answer, the morgue door burst open. Commander Thorne entered with 2 guards, his scarred face grim. Despite his harsh role at evaluations, Kestrel had noticed he followed Lysander's orders without question, a soldier doing his duty, not a cruel man. Your Majesty, the Council demands your presence. They're calling for the Omega's execution. Kestrel's blood went cold. What? Silence, Lysander snarled. To Thorne. On what grounds? Lady Seraphina has testified that the Omega is corrupted, that her presence will bring plague upon the pack. Thorne's eyes flicked to Kestrel, not with disgust but concern. The council votes within the hour. Lysander went perfectly still, the terrifying stillness of a predator before attack. And who called this vote? Lord Aldrich, Your Majesty. He claims ancient law supersedes even your protection. Does he? Lysander's voice was deadly soft. How convenient that Aldrich moves against her just as we discover the pattern. Sire? Nothing. Tell the council I'll attend. He turned to Kestrel. You're coming with me. The council chamber was packed with alphas and betas, all radiating hostility. Kestrel stayed close to Lysander, acutely aware of being the only Omega present. At the chamber's heart sat Lord Aldrich, elderly but powerful, his gray eyes sharp as flint. Lysander, Aldrich stood. We've tolerated your eccentricities, but harboring a corrupted Omega threatens us all. Corrupted, Lysander repeated. Define corrupted, uncle. Uncle? Kestrel stared. Lord Aldrich was the king's family? She carries wolf traits no Omega should possess, Aldrich declared. It's an abomination against natural law. Natural law, Lysander laughed coldly. You mean the law you wrote 40 years ago when you purged the last Omega wolves? Gasps echoed through the chamber. Kestrel's mind reeled. There had been others like her? They were diseased, Aldrich spat. Their existence upset the balance. Their existence threatened your power. Lysander moved forward, and every alpha in the room tensed. Omega wolves could sense lies, betrayal, corruption. They could identify traitors by scent alone. Tell me, uncle, what did you fear they'd discover? How dare you? I dare because 3 Omega Wolves are dead, killed by someone using poison, someone with intimate knowledge of our weaknesses. Lysander's voice rose. Someone in this very room is a murderer, and you want to execute the only witness who can identify them. She's not a witness. Seraphina stepped from the crowd, elegant in crimson silk. She's the killer. The chamber erupted. Kestrel stumbled backward as accusations flew. Lies! Lysander snarled, but Seraphina continued. She arrived just as the killings escalated. Her scent was found at 2 crime scenes, and tonight, Seraphina smiled viciously. Tonight, another Omega died, while she was conveniently absent from the king's chambers. I was with the king, Kestrel protested. Were you? Can anyone verify that? Seraphina turned to the crowd. The king's guards report he left alone this morning. This creature could have gone anywhere, killed anyone. Pain lanced through Kestrel's skull. Her vision blurred, and suddenly she could smell everything, every emotion in the room. Fear, anger, bloodlust, and underneath it all, satisfaction. Someone was pleased by this chaos. Her gaze snapped to a figure in the corner, Lord Aldrich's personal secretary, a beta named Garrett. He smelled wrong. Bitter. Chemical. Like poison. It's him, she gasped, pointing. He smells like... Garrett moved impossibly fast, a blade flashing toward her throat. But Lysander was faster, intercepting the strike with his bare hand. Blood sprayed as the blade cut deep into his palm. Guards! Seize! But Garrett was already running. Without thinking, Kestrel gave chase, her newly awakened wolf howling for justice. She heard Lysander roar her name, but the hunt was everything. Garrett burst onto a balcony, cornering himself. Stay back, abomination. You killed them. Why? Because you shouldn't exist. His eyes were wild. Lord Aldrich promised, when the Omega Wolves were gone, we'd be rewarded. The natural order restored. Aldrich ordered this? The Omega Wolves destroyed my family 40 years ago, revealed my father's treachery with their cursed senses. He raised another blade. Now I return the favor. He lunged. Kestrel's wolf surged forward, and suddenly she wasn't fully human anymore. Her partial shift, impossible for an Omega, sent claws extending, teeth sharpening. She caught Garrett's wrist, her new strength shocking them both. Monster, he gasped. Yes, she agreed, then threw him over the balcony's edge. Lysander's poisoned hand was getting worse. Black veins crept up his forearm despite the healer's efforts, and his breathing had grown labored. Kestrel paced his chambers like a caged animal, her wolf agitated by her mates. No, not mate. The king's deteriorating condition. The poison is modified, the royal healer announced grimly. It's spreading faster than anything I've seen. If we don't find an antidote by dawn. He didn't need to finish. Kestrel could smell death creeping closer with each passing hour. Leave us, Lysander commanded weakly from his bed. When they were alone, Kestrel approached the bed cautiously. Lysander looked smaller somehow, his usual dangerous energy dimmed. Stop hovering, he muttered. I'm not dead yet. The poison is killing you. Observant. He attempted a smile, but it turned into a grimace. Come here. She sat on the bed's edge, careful not to jostle him. This close, she could see sweat beading on his forehead, the way his jaw clenched against pain. There's something you need to know, he said quietly. About your grandmother, about why she hid you. What? She was one of the original Omega Wolves. She survived Aldrich's purge by pretending to be normal, suppressing her nature. His good hand found hers. She knew what you were from birth. The herbs she gave you weren't just to hide your scent, they were to prevent your first heat. Kestrel's blood chilled. Why? Because omega wolves in heat are irresistible to alphas. Our wolves recognize yours as perfect mates. The bond, once formed, is unbreakable. His thumb traced her knuckles. Your grandmother knew if you went into heat, you'd be claimed immediately. She was trying to give you choice. But the suppressant stopped working. Because you met me. His eyes held dark amusement despite the pain. Your wolf recognized mine even through the suppressants. It's fighting to surface, to claim what it sees as its mate. Heat flooded Kestrel's face. We're not mates. No, he agreed. But we could be. The words hung between them, heavy with possibility. Then Lysander convulsed, black blood trickling from his mouth. Lysander. Find Aldrich, he gasped. He'll have the antidote. He always keeps antidotes to his own poisons. Where is he? The Winter Fortress. North of here. But Kestrel? He gripped her wrist with surprising strength. Don't go alone. Take guards. There's no time. She could hear his heartbeat stuttering. I'm the fastest runner now. My wolf. Your wolf is 3 days old. You can't control it. I can try. She leaned down, pressing her forehead to his. Don't you dare die while I'm gone. Bossy, he murmured, but his eyes were fond. Kestrel, if something happens, nothing will happen. If it does, he continued firmly, know that bringing you here, protecting you, it wasn't just duty. I dash. She kissed him. It was desperate, clumsy, but his lips were soft beneath hers, and for a moment, the world narrowed to just this, his mouth, his scent, the electric connection between them. When she pulled back, his eyes had flashed gold. Come back to me, he whispered. Always, she promised, then ran. The shift came easier this time, 4 legs instead of 2, silver-white fur rippling in moonlight. She ran through the night, following Aldrich's scent trail, fear and betrayal and poison. The Winter Fortress squatted on a mountainside like a frozen spider. Guards patrolled the walls, but Kestrel's omega blood made her naturally submissive seeming. They barely glanced at the lone wolf. She shifted at the fortress's base, her naked human form shivering in the snow. A servant's entrance stood unguarded. She slipped inside, stealing clothes from a laundry room. Aldrich's scent led her deeper into the fortress. She found him in a laboratory, surrounded by vials and herbs. He was packing frantically, clearly planning to flee. Going somewhere? He spun, eyes widening. You, how? Looking for this? She held up a vial she'd grabbed from his desk. The antidote? That won't save him. It needs my blood to activate, alpha blood from his bloodline. Aldrich smiled coldly. And I'll die before I give it. Then die. But as she moved forward, Aldrich shifted. A massive gray wolf, scarred and vicious. His jaws snapped where her throat had been. They fought viciously, wolf to wolf. Aldrich had experience, size, strength. But Kestrel had desperation and something else. The rage of every omega wolf he'd murdered. When Aldrich lunged for her throat, she didn't dodge. Instead, she shifted mid-leap, human hands grabbing a silver blade from his own desk. The metal burned her palms, but she drove it deep into his chest as he collided with her. They crashed to the floor, Aldrich's wolf form flickering as he died. With his last breath, he whispered, "Your heat is coming. When it does, you'll burn through every alpha in existence. They'll tear each other apart to claim you. I was trying to prevent." He died before finishing. Kestrel collected his blood in a vial, mixing it with the antidote. She had to get back to Lysander. Already she could feel something building in her core. A dangerous heat that had nothing to do with exertion. Her heat. It was starting. And she was hours from home, surrounded by a fortress full of alphas, with the only antidote to save Lysander's life clutched in her burning hands. The run back was agony, not from exhaustion. Her wolf could run for days, but from the fire building in her veins. Her heat was coming fast, too fast, years of suppression making it violent in its arrival. Every alpha she passed on the mountain path turned to stare, nostrils flaring. By the time she reached the citadel's gates, she could barely think through the need clawing at her insides. "Halt!" A guard stepped forward, then stumbled as her scent hit him. His eyes went black with desire. Omega. She darted past him, but his howl of pursuit brought others. Soon, half the guard was chasing her through the corridors, their control shattered by her heat scent. "Mine!" one snarled, lunging for her. "No, mine!" Another tackled him, and they began fighting viciously. Kestrel ran faster, clutching the antidote. She had to reach Lysander before more alphas appeared, drawn by the commotion and her scent. The corridor became a battlefield as they fought each other for the right to claim her. She dodged grasping hands, snapping teeth, leaving chaos in her wake. Finally, she burst into Lysander's chambers. He was worse, skin gray, breathing shallow. The healers had fled, probably when they caught her scent from down the hall. "Lysander." She rushed to the bed, uncorking the vial. "Drink this." His eyes opened, immediately going black as her scent hit him. A growl rumbled from his chest, primal and possessive. "No." She pressed the vial to his lips. "Medicine first." "Drink." He obeyed, though his eyes never left hers. The moment the antidote hit his system, she could see it working. Black veins retreating, color returning to his skin. But his recovery meant his alpha strength returning too. His hand shot out, dragging her onto the bed. "Heat," he growled. "You're in heat." "I noticed," she gasped as another wave of need crashed through her. "Others are coming. I can hear them fighting." He sat up, still weak, but determined. "They'll tear the citadel apart to get to you. Then we leave." "Where?" "Anywhere, just—" She whimpered as her body temperature spiked. "Please. I can't. It hurts." Lysander's control visibly frayed, but he managed to stand, pulling her with him. The old tower. It's isolated, defensible. They barely made it. Alphas filled the corridors, some fighting, others hunting. Lysander carved a path through them, his dominance as king giving him slight advantage. But even he struggled against the madness her heat induced. The tower was ancient, abandoned, its heavy door barring behind them. Lysander immediately began barricading it with furniture as alphas howled outside. "This won't hold forever," he panted. Kestrel had collapsed on the floor, her body feeling like it might combust. "I'm sorry. I didn't know it would be like this." Omega Wolf heats are legendary for a reason. He knelt beside her, his own control hanging by a thread. "Every unmated alpha in 100 miles will be drawn here." "Then claim me." The words hung between them. Lysander's eyes went pure gold. "Kestrel --. You said it yourself. We're mates. My wolf chose yours." She reached for him with trembling hands. "I choose you too. Not because of the heat. Not because I have to. Because I want to. If I claim you now, in heat, the bond will be permanent. Unbreakable. You'll be mine forever. And you'll be mine." He kissed her then, savage and desperate. The world exploded into sensation, his hands, his mouth, his scent everywhere. When he bit her neck, marking her as his, she screamed. Not in pain, but in complete, overwhelming relief. The bond snapped into place like a physical thing. She could feel him, his thoughts, his emotions, his desperate love that he'd been hiding since the moment he saw her on that platform. "My turn," she gasped, then bit him back, something only Omega Wolves could do. His roar shook the tower, but it wasn't anger. It was triumph. They came together in a frenzy of need and newly bonded intensity. The heat demanded satisfaction, and Lysander gave it to her, their wolves finally united. Hours passed in a haze of pleasure and connection, the bond deepening with each touch. When dawn broke, the heat had calmed to something manageable. They lay entwined, bodies marked with claiming bites and scratches that would scar beautifully. "The alpha's outside," Kestrel murmured against his chest. "Gone. Once you were claimed, your scent changed. They have no more interest." He stroked her hair. "Though we may have to rebuild parts of the citadel." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. You exposed Aldrich's conspiracy, saved my life, and gave me something I never thought I'd have." "What's that?" "A true mate. An equal." He tilted her chin up. "A queen who can detect any threat to our kingdom with her Omega Wolf senses." "Queen?" She blinked. "But I'm mine, and I'm the king. That makes you queen." He grinned at her shock. "The council will hate it." "They already hate me." "They fear you." "There's a difference." His expression grew serious. "There will be challenges. Other alphas who think you're weak. Enemies who want you dead. The Omega Wolf bloodline threatens many old powers. Then we face them together." "Together," he agreed, pulling her closer. A knock interrupted them. "Your Majesty," Thorn's voice came through the door. "I apologize, but we have a situation." "What now?" Lysander called back. "3 more Omega Wolves have been found, sire." "Alive. They were hidden in the lower city, but your mate's successful shift has given them courage to reveal themselves." Kestrel sat up, eyes wide. "Others like me?" "Apparently so." Lysander smiled. "It seems you're not the last after all." Hope bloomed in her chest. Others like her. A community. A future where Omega Wolves weren't myths, but reality. "Bring them to the throne room," Lysander commanded, "and summon what's left of the council. It's time for some changes." But as they dressed, Kestrel noticed something odd. A raven perched outside the window, watching with 2 intelligent eyes. When it flew away, she caught a familiar scent on the wind. Seraphina. She'd been watching, waiting. The throne room was tense when they arrived. 3 young Omega Wolves stood before the remaining council members, 2 women and a teenage boy, all bearing the subtle signs of their nature. "Your Majesties," they bowed uncertainly. "Rise," Kestrel said gently. "You're among friends." "Are we?" The teenage boy's voice cracked. "Because outside, they're calling for our heads. Saying the queen has poisoned the natural order." Before Lysander could respond, the massive windows shattered. Figures in dark robes poured through. But these weren't ordinary attackers. They moved with supernatural grace, and at their head stood Seraphina. But something was wrong. Her alpha presence had vanished, replaced by something far more dangerous. "Hello, cousin," she said to Lysander. "Surprised?" "Seraphina, what?" "Not Seraphina." Her form rippled, shifted. "That was merely a role I played. My real name is Nyx, last of the Prime Omegas." Kestrel's wolf recoiled. Prime Omega. She'd heard whispers of such beings, Omegas so powerful they could command alphas, bend them to their will. "You killed those Omegas," Kestrel accused. "I freed them from their weakness." Nyx stepped forward. "Just as I'll free you." "You see, you're not the savior of Omega Wolves. You're their destruction." "Lies!" Lysander snarled. "Is it? Tell me, Kestrel, have you noticed the changes? How alphas can barely resist you even after being claimed?" Nyx smiled coldly. You're becoming a prime. And when you fully transform, you'll be able to control any wolf. I would never. Wouldn't you? You've already killed for your mate. Used your power to change the entire kingdom. Nyx circled them slowly. Power corrupts. Always. Like it corrupted you? I'm not corrupted. I'm evolved. Nyx's eyes blazed. For 50 years I've hidden, learned their weaknesses. Now, with you as catalyst, Omega wolves are revealing themselves. We can rule. No more balance, Kestrel countered. Alphas and Omegas need each other. Pretty lies. Nyx's expression hardened. But if you won't join willingly... She moved impossibly fast, a blade flashing toward Lysander's heart. Kestrel intercepted, the blade catching her shoulder. Predictable, Nyx said as Kestrel collapsed. Love makes you weak. Lysander's roar shook the throne room. He launched at Nyx, but she laughed, her power flaring. Kneel, she commanded, and Lysander dropped to his belly, whimpering. You see? Nyx stood over him. Even kings are helpless before a prime. No, Kestrel gasped. She could feel Lysander's humiliation through their bond. Let him go. Make me. Something snapped inside Kestrel. The rage, the pain, the need to protect. It crystallized into pure power. She rose, the poison burning away in the face of her transformation. Not into a wolf, into something else. Her form remained human but changed. Taller, stronger, eyes blazing with prismatic fire. The young Omega wolves gasped, dropping to their knees. Even Nyx stepped back. Impossible. The prime transformation takes years. Unless accelerated by a true mate bond, Kestrel said, her voice carrying new harmonics. Something you'll never have because you've forgotten the truth. We're meant to protect balance, not destroy it. She reached out with her power, not to control, but to free. Lysander rose, shaking off Nyx's command. Choose, Kestrel addressed Nyx's followers. Follow her into tyranny, or help build a world where all wolves are equal. One by one, they stepped away from Nyx. Fools, Nyx snarled. You could have been gods. We already are what we're meant to be, Kestrel replied. Wolves. Pack. Family. Nyx attacked with everything she had. Centuries of power focused into destruction. But Kestrel met her, channeling not just her own strength, but the willing power of every wolf in the room. When the light faded, Nyx lay unconscious, her power broken. Lock her in the null cells, Lysander commanded. Maybe someday she'll remember what pack means. As guards dragged Nyx away, Kestrel swayed. The prime transformation retreated, leaving her exhausted but changed. My queen, the teenage Omega whispered. What happens now? Now we rebuild, Kestrel said. Together. But even as she spoke, she sensed something wrong. A disturbance at the edge of her awareness. In the distance, an army approached. Hundreds of wolves, all bearing the mark of the southern territories. What is that? She asked. Lysander's face went grim. My brother's army. Seems news of a prime Omega has traveled fast. Your brother? The one who believes Omegas should be enslaved, not elevated. He drew his sword. This isn't over. The southern army filled the valley below, 500 wolves strong. At their head rode Prince Raziel, Lysander's younger brother, his silver armor gleaming in the dawn light. He won't negotiate, Lysander said quietly. Raziel believes in the old ways absolutely. Then why haven't you stopped him? Because he's family. And because half the kingdom agrees with him. A horn sounded. Prince Raziel approached under a parley banner. Up close, Kestrel could see his resemblance to Lysander. Same dark hair, same build, but his eyes were cold amber. Brother, Raziel called, I come for the aberration you're harboring. You come for my maiden queen, Lysander replied. Turn back now. Queen? Raziel laughed. An Omega cannot be queen, but a prime Omega. His eyes found Kestrel with hunger. She's wasted on you. Under my rule, she'd learn her true purpose, which is to breed a new generation. Prime Omega genes combined with royal alpha blood, our children would be gods. Bile rose in Kestrel's throat. I'm not breeding stock. You're whatever the strongest alpha makes you, Raziel replied. After I kill my weak brother, that will be me. You're challenging me? Lysander's voice was deadly quiet. Single combat, dawn tomorrow. Winner takes the kingdom and the prime. I accept, Lysander began. No, Kestrel interrupted. I accept. Both brothers stared. The law states the challenged party chooses their champion, Kestrel said. As queen and the one being fought over, I choose myself. Raziel's laugh was cruel. You'll die in seconds. Then you have nothing to fear. When you lose, you submit completely. And when you lose, your army disbands, and you accept Omega Wolves as equals. Done. As Raziel's army withdrew, Lysander gripped her shoulders. He's trained since birth. And I'm a prime who can sense his every move. She touched his face. You still love him. You'd hesitate, and he'd kill you for it. And you think I can watch him kill you? He won't. She pressed her forehead to his. Trust me. That night, Kestrel trained with the young Omega Wolves. We're not fighters, Mira protested. We're survivors. Sometimes that means fighting. Kestrel demonstrated a partial shift. Our strength isn't brute force. It's adaptation, speed, instinct. Dawn came too quickly. The armies gathered in a circle, Raziel's forces on one side, the Citadel's on the other. Last chance, Omega. Submit now. Never. Raziel attacked without warning, shifting mid-leap into a massive silver wolf. Kestrel barely dodged, his claws raking her shoulder. Blood splattered the stone. The crowd roared. Raziel pressed his advantage, using size and strength to drive her back. Kestrel refused to fully shift, staying human, dodging desperately. Pathetic, Raziel snarled, shifting back. You won't even fight properly. I'm not fighting. I'm surviving. Same thing. No. Fighting is about domination. Survival is about endurance. She wiped blood from her mouth. You've been attacking for 5 minutes. How do you feel? For the first time, uncertainty flickered in his eyes. He was breathing hard, sweat beading on his forehead. Omega Wolves can run for days, Kestrel continued. We had to escape alphas like you. You're stronger, but we last longer. He attacked again, but slower. Kestrel danced away, letting him exhaust himself. Each missed strike made him angrier, sloppier. Then she smelled it. Poison on his claws. A final dishonorable attempt. Cheater, she whispered. Winner, he corrected, lunging. This time, Kestrel didn't dodge. She caught his wrist, letting momentum carry them both down. His poisoned claws sank into her side. Got you, he panted. No, she whispered. I've got you. Her transformation wasn't into a wolf. It was into her prime form. Power exploded outward, not to control, but to reveal. Every wolf present suddenly saw, felt, knew the truth. Raziel's memories flooded the courtyard. His fear of being weak, of losing control. His father beating him for showing mercy. The night he'd cried after his first kill, swearing never to be vulnerable again. Stop, he gasped, but Kestrel went deeper, showing everyone not just his cruelty but his pain, the scared child beneath the tyrant. You're afraid, she said gently. Afraid that if Omegas are equals, Alphas become worthless. We are worthless, he broke, tears streaming. Without our strength, what are we? You're more than your strength. She released him, standing despite the poison. You're protectors, partners, pack. Your worth isn't in dominating others but in lifting them up. She turned to address both armies. This is what we are, all of us. Not alphas or omegas, not rulers or slaves. We're wolves, we're family, and families don't tear each other apart. The young omega wolves stepped forward. Then, surprisingly, some of Raziel's soldiers. Alphas and omegas mixing, no longer separated. The old ways are dead, Kestrel declared. Today, we build something new. Together. Raziel knelt, not in submission but in acknowledgement. You spared me when you could have destroyed me. Strength isn't in destroying. It's in healing. Lysander rushed to her as the poison took its toll. She collapsed into his arms, but she was smiling. Did we win? You did something better, he said. You united us. 1 year later, Queen Kestrel stood in the new council chamber, watching Omega Wolves and Alphas debate side by side. The young Omega Mira now served as Minister of Justice, her ability to detect lies invaluable. The Southern Territories have integrated, Raziel reported. He'd become her strongest supporter, channeling his intensity into protecting all wolves. And the rebel clans? Lysander asked. Coming around. Kestrel rubbed her swollen belly. They'll accept it eventually. They'll have to, Lysander said, hand joining hers. The next generation won't know any other way. Through the window, young wolves played together. Alphas and omegas, no longer separated by fear. You did this, Lysander murmured. We did this, she corrected. And we're not done yet. The weak Omega, declared too fragile to survive, had become the strongest force in the kingdom, not through dominance, but through unity. And this was just the beginning.